The committee will come to order. This is the fiscal year 2025 Legislative Branch Subcommittee Member Day hearing. I'd like to thank, Acting Ranking Member Wexton today and committee members for being here. Representative Kilmer and Representative Crockett for being here as well today. In addition to our two witnesses here this morning, Representative Mark Takano and Representative Sylvia Garcia submitted testimony for the record. I would also like to make a note that this hearing also serves as a vehicle for public witnesses to submit testimony for the record, and 9 testimonies were submitted and may be found online. Representative Kilmer, I appreciate the work and support you have provided to modernize Congress, your work on the Select Committee on Modernization, more recently on the House Administration's Committee of Modernization Subcommittee, have driven the implementation of numerous recommendations that make the House and the Congress work more efficiently and effectively for our own benefit and that of our constituents. And then for Representative Crockett, thank you for taking time to testify today. I look forward to hearing more about AbilityOne and how you believe Congress could benefit from procuring the flags that fly over the Capitol through this program. I now recognize Ranking Member Wexton for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Valadeo. As members of the committee already know, last year I was diagnosed with progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. I describe it as Parkinson's on steroids and I don't recommend it. PSP makes it very difficult for me to speak. So I use an assistive app so that I can participate and you can understand me. I want to thank the chair for allowing me to do both today. It's very important that the subcommittee hear the concerns of our fellow legislators and members of the public before we begin to work on marking up our fiscal year 2025 subcommittee bill. Welcome back, Mr. Kilmer. I look forward to hearing your testimony and reading the other testimonies submitted by our fellow colleagues and members of the public who have shared with us their suggestions on the legislative branch agencies within our bill and how to improve the operations of the Congress. We will do our best to incorporate them into our bill. Mr. Kilmer has been a friend of this subcommittee for a long time and always comes with hope for a better tomorrow. Mr. Kilmer, your contributions to modernizing our institution have been tremendous. Thank you and Ms. Vice for your work on the Modernization Subcommittee and carrying the torch to ensure Congress has the tools necessary to serve our constituents effectively. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Wexton. Representative Kilmer, your full testimony has been submitted for the record, and you are now recognized to provide a summary of your written testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Valadeo, and thank you, Acting Ranking Member Wexton. Appreciate you both. I'm sort of a Ledge Branch Subcommittee groupie, I suppose. But Chairman, congratulations on your gavel and your new role leading this committee. I'm here to talk about modernizing Congress. As you know, in the 116th and 17th Congresses, the Select Committee on the Modernization of Congress, also known as the Fixed Congress Committee, was tasked with developing bipartisan recommendations designed to make Congress work better for the American people. We looked at everything from congressional capacity to outdated technology to rising polarization to just figure out how to build a better institution that is more responsive to the needs of the American people. In total, the Select Committee made 202 recommendations. At this point, about half have been partially or fully implemented. The House Administration Committee's Modernization Subcommittee, where I serve as ranking member alongside Chairwoman Stephanie Bice, has been tasked with driving implementation of the remaining open recommendations. I'm here to both thank you for your past and continued partnership on modernization issues and outline ways that the Ledge Branch Subcommittee can continue to help. First, I want to call attention to the significant work of this subcommittee in driving the implementation of recommendations. In the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 Ledge Branch appropriations bills, we were able to successfully advance over 24 Select Committee recommendations. That includes the establishment of the new intern resource office that will officially open this summer to provide streamlined training to interns and intern coordinators alike. This one is especially meaningful to me, as I won't say how long ago I was a congressional intern myself. Past bills from this subcommittee also included language to ensure managers on Capitol Hill have access to supervisor training, funding, and language to provide members with a transition aid to help new members hit the ground running at the start of their term, as well as language to create bipartisan staff collaboration spaces on campus where staff can now meet together to work on and negotiate policy. Additionally, the Modernization Initiatives account, somewhat frighteningly titled the MIA, was created in fiscal year 2021 to support the Select Committee's work, and it has and will continue to fund implementation of Select Committee recommendations. So far, this funding has supported the introduction of new e-discovery software for use in congressional oversight, a flag tracker portal to ease management of constituent flag orders, a tool to allow electronic voting in committees to save time and to reduce errors, the development of a legislative and support agency staff directory so offices don't spend their limited MRA funds to get data Congress already owns, and the deconflict tool where committees can see where their members are slated to be when their members are slated to be somewhere else, or in my case today, 3 other places all at the same time, to help improve scheduling and attendance at committee proceedings and more. Additional projects underway include completion of the lobbyist disclosure modernization project by the clerk to make it easier to know who is lobbying Congress and on what, a tool to allow collaborative drafting of legislation between several member offices, the Senate, committee staff, and stakeholders, a tool to streamline and reduce errors when staff obtain and register bill co-sponsors, a committee portal to serve as a one-stop shop for committee information, and a tool to allow member offices to anonymize casework data to identify trends impacting constituents across different congressional districts that can inform subsequent congressional action. Simply put, the MIA, the Modernization Initiatives account, helps fund Select Committee recommendations designed to solve problems, and over time, save this institution money by reducing turnover and allowing us to complete higher volumes of work better. And I just want to urge you to continue funding this critical account. Through the Modernization Initiatives account and related report language request I will make to this subcommittee, I'm hopeful we can fully implement additional open Select Committee recommendations in fiscal year 2025. That includes recommendations for the Congressional Leadership Academy and Staff Academy to offer voluntary training to members and staff to promote civility, collaboration, and leadership skills, for the House to start a formal mentorship program for matching more experienced staff with less experienced staff, the development of a tool to improve offices' management of constituent tour requests, getting our offices better industry-leading correspondence technology tools so we can respond to constituents in a more thorough and timely fashion, for the House to offer a voluntary seminar for new members to build on new member orientation and provide follow-up opportunity for new members to ask questions and provide input after having served in Congress for several months, and finally for the House to have a public-facing interactive platform for constituents to offer opinions and feedback on pending legislation. I can't think of a better way to finish my final term in Congress than by bringing these recommendations home, and by extension, making this institution work better for all of our constituents and for all Americans. I greatly appreciate your leadership, your partnership, and your consideration of these requests. I'm happy to provide additional information as you review them, and thank you again for the opportunity to testify before your subcommittee today.
Well, while we're waiting on Ms. Crockett to appear, I guess I'll just ask a question because she's not here yet, right? As I mentioned in my opening statement, we appreciate the work you have done and have already done to modernize the House. As you look forward to your well-deserved retirement, your legacy remains. So I want to congratulate you on that. I've enjoyed working with you over the years.
Back at you.
Especially the text chain on full appropriations committee. That's always fun. As we continue to work, what priorities or recommendations do you have for us that you would say most important for us to really focus on?
You know, I laid out a number of them. I think actually implementation of the staff and member academy really matters. Congress is the first place I ever worked that, to the best of my knowledge, other than freshman orientation, has no professional development. And I think members want to get better at their jobs, and I know our staff do as well. They want to actually work their way up and develop new skills, and the work that Staff Academy and the Congressional Leadership Academy will do, I think, really matters. There are other things that are currently being implemented that I think really matter. I mentioned the committee deconfliction tool. That will only be as successful as the degree to which committees actually use it. So that's something, perhaps the ledge branch bill could, even though we've now funded the tool, if there's ways that we can encourage committees to actually participate in it. The notion of this is if you're a committee chair and you're looking to schedule a hearing, being able to look at, okay, how many of my, if I schedule it Wednesday at 10 o'clock, how many of my committee members have a conflict versus if I schedule it at 11 o'clock or if I schedule it on Thursday? With the hope that we can have a little less conflict in the schedule. Ideally, Congress is a place where policymaking happens in committees, not in leadership offices. That only works if members are able to show up at committees and we're actually able to have discussion and dialogue. Right now, committees are largely a place, as I'm demonstrating today, where you airdrop in for 5 minutes, read your speech, and then peace out because you got to go to another committee. That's not best practice.
Well, and that's one of the things that I've always found frustrating, and I'm just learning about this this new tool to help schedule a little bit better. Can you elaborate a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I guess I just gave the context for how it works. Now, the problem is that only works if committees are populating it with their when they put something on the schedule. And so that's one of the things I think we're hoping to do. You asked about other areas. Chairwoman Bice and I've spent a fair amount of time talking about new member orientation. Both as you look at the culture of an institution and how people get better at their jobs. When you and I came into Congress, a lot of the orientation process was an exercise in keeping Democrats and Republicans from talking to each other. One of the recommendations of the Modernization Committee was, let's try insofar as possible to make that an entirely bipartisan experience. But the other thing we learned through the work of the Modernization Committee is best practice in terms of training up new employees is not to just pound them with information on the first week, or not even the first week for us, it's before you even show up. Having a deep dive into the budget and appropriations process several months before you actually go through a budget and appropriations process is not actually super helpful. But if you could actually offer sort of just-in-time training to new members and say, okay, now we're entering appropriation season. Here's what you need to know, and offering that type of training, I think would actually be very valuable, and it's one of the things that the Modernization Committee mentioned. There are other things that I think would be worthy of funding, and through the way this Ledge Branch Committee has worked, and I commend you for it, is not to sort of micromanage, we're going to provide X amount for this project and X amount for Y, but rather to fund the modernization initiatives account. And then the Modernization Committee and now the Modernization Subcommittee has worked along with Ledge Branch Approps and the CAO, basically trying to prioritize projects and trying to get as much bang out of those limited dollars as possible. I think it's worked really well. I think it's actually a really good approach, and I commend this subcommittee for taking that approach.
I appreciate that. Thank you again. I'm going to open up and see if Ms. Wexton has any questions for you.
I will say one other thing on the schedule, if that's all right, Chairman.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to be the purview of this committee, although everything is the purview of this committee. I think there's going to be a push by the Fixed Congress Caucus and by others focused on the schedule and calendar, probably in the fall when we don't know which party is going to be in the majority, an effort to express to the leadership of both parties that there's a better way to do the calendar. We're not here enough. I don't know the data for this year, but the last year of the Modernization Committee, we were here 65 full days and 66 travel days. Ideally, we would be actually in DC more full days than travel days. There's a way to build out the calendar where you're actually able to have more time in DC, actually having full days where committees meet, more time in the district, and just less time with your flight attendant friends on your commute here. And I think that would be a smart thing for us to do, and I would love to invite your participation in that effort.
I'd enjoy that as a fellow West Coaster who spends way too much time in the air. I can sympathize with that. Ms. Wexton?
The chairman asked my question, but you'll be glad to hear that Ms. Bice brought up the same point about the schedule deconfliction tool, as she headed out to another committee. But changing the culture will take some time.
Mr. Kilmer, I know you got other committees to go to. You're more than welcome to stick around, but if you've got things to do, I get it too.
Thank you, Chairman.
Ms. Crockett, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and committee. And thanks for having this day. It's really important. I'm here to talk about something you don't see very often in this Congress especially, and that's a bipartisan proposal. The letter that my office has provided the committee a copy of is led not only by myself, but also by Representatives Molinaro, Mike Thompson, and Strong. We are requesting the legislative branch appropriations bill support the employment of Americans with disabilities by purchasing at least 25% of the flags the CAO procures in order to satisfy constituent flag requests from the AbilityOne program. As a bit of background for those who don't know, when Congress passed the JWOD, it required the federal government, and that includes legislative entities, to procure products and services whenever possible from the AbilityOne program. Now, why would they institute this requirement? Because by procuring through the AbilityOne program, you certify that the product or service you are purchasing is provided by Americans with disabilities, including those living with blindness, and a growing number of returning disabled veterans. Thanks to these federal dollars supporting employment for those with disabilities, tens of thousands of Americans are able to work at good-paying jobs. Through the AbilityOne program, we allow Americans with disabilities to achieve a level of financial independence that too often is out of reach. Unfortunately, the number of Americans employed through AbilityOne has declined in recent years. While this has spurred a renewed commitment to the program in the executive branch, Congress has not only failed to increase our efforts to engage with AbilityOne, but in many cases is in fact failing to make the basic required procurements under JWOD. Each year, the Chief Administrative Officer purchases and flies over the Capitol over 100,000 flags to be presented to our constituents. Currently, not a single flag is purchased through the AbilityOne program. This is despite the law being crystal clear that products on the procurement list should always be purchased unless they are demonstratively not fit for the purpose. Right now, the AbilityOne Commission lists 3 vendors that together produce nearly 250,000 flags annually for other federal entities. These flags are of such high quality that they are used to lay our fallen veterans to rest. If these flags are good enough for our veterans, they are certainly good enough to be presented to our constituents. So if these flags are fit for purpose, why isn't CAO purchasing them now? Because despite being required to engage with AbilityOne under JWOD, legislative branch entities are not subject to any enforcement or reporting mechanisms. So for now, we must ensure compliance one step at a time. If this procurement order goes as well as Representatives Molinaro, Mike Thompson, Strong, and I expect, we should continue to raise the percentage in future years. And if you are interested in increasing legislative branch procurement from the AbilityOne program more holistically, reach out to Congressman Molinaro and I. We are working with the Committee on House Administration on a larger fix that I would be happy to talk about. But for now, let's do the obvious thing. The thing is required by law. Let's ensure when our constituents purchase a flag that's flown over the Capitol, it is one made by a veteran who returned home after developing a disability in service to our country. Let's do the bipartisan thing. Let's procure at least 25% of our CAO flags from the AbilityOne program in FY25. With that, I thank the committee for its time, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett. Appreciate the time. I'm just going to yield myself a few minutes to ask a quick question, and I just want to thank you for your efforts to support AbilityOne vendors and Americans with disabilities. If the CO were to begin purchasing flags from these vendors, are you aware of any savings or cost adjustments that would be passed on to our constituents for purchasing these flags through the websites?
I am unaware as to whether or not, as far as the cost, I think that it's comparable to what we're already paying, so I don't think it'll necessarily be less expensive. I don't have any information that would make me believe that it would be more expensive, though.
All right, thank you. I don't have a whole lot of questions. I don't know, Ms. Wexton, I think she's preparing a question if you've got a minute.
Yeah.
To hold on, so,
Thank you.
thanks.
Do participants in AbilityOne risk losing their benefits due to the money they earn producing the flags?
No. No, these are people that are already working for these companies. In fact, we know that there's I believe that there's three specific AbilityOne companies, and one is in the chairs. Anyway, there may be one that you're very familiar with. We'll get back to you on that, Mr. Chair. But long story short, these are people that are already in the workforce, and it's just a matter of making sure that those companies, these small businesses, are surviving and thriving. So they're already earning the earnings that they're already getting, but we're just trying to make sure that they still are staying employed and that these businesses continue to thrive. It's not a matter of an individual that has a disability is now going to lose access to their benefits because now they themselves will experience a windfall of some sort. But instead, it's a matter of you have specific companies that have employed people with disabilities, and we want to make sure that those companies survive, those small businesses survive, and that's what this is about.
Well, if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank Representative Kilmer and Crockett for being here today, and members may submit any additional questions for the record. This subcommittee stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you so much.